Hello and welcome back to GPFW. We know the Premier League has just finished and Bournemouth, Norwich and Watford have been relegated from the Premier League. Whilst Norwich were perhaps always meant to go down, the other two have been Premier League teams for a while now and they have gone down with quite a lot of good players still in their teams. This will be the first of two videos exploring the best players that have gone down with the relegated clubs. As this is the first of two parts, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications for the next video as soon as it comes out. This is relegated players who are too good for the Championship. First up we have Todd Campbell. Obviously he played for Norwich and he was one of their shining lights in what was, a very dark season. Obviously you can play across the front line in terms of attacking midfield, left wing or right wing. We usually found him on that left wing for Norwich. He was a very key attacker with 7 goals and 2 assists, and he had an 81.9% pass success rate as well, and he was someone who was very direct in the final third. He worked very hard. He was the 7th most fouled player in the Premier League, which showed you how often he took the ball and how often he was fouled and how well he could shield the ball. Only 22 years old, which means he's got plenty of time to improve, and obviously this was his first season in the Premier League, so I'm sure he will improve over the years, whether it is at a similar sized club next year or whether he can make the step up to the likes of a top half team like an Everton or a Burnley. Next up is Max Aarons, who's 20 years old, who played right back for Norwich City. Obviously full-backs are a huge part of the modern game, and this guy embodies that role. He's very happy going both ways, and at 20 years old he had his first season in the Premier League, and to most extent he did okay, but obviously Norwich conceded the most goals in the Premier League and the defence was incredibly shaky. It wasn't just down to him, it was down to the whole team and how they defended, but he's someone who shows a lot of potential going forward. At 20 years old, he can only get better, and he could definitely be a backup right back for any of the top clubs looking to improve him, or he could even go straight into the likes of a Crystal Palace who need a right back. Next in the list is Ahmed Corry from Watford. The big centre mid is 27 years old and he's contributed 4 goals and 2 assists this season. He's a guy who struggled before Nigel Pearson came in. When Nigel Pearson came in, obviously Norwich were 7 points off the pace at the bottom of the table, and then he managed to get them away from there before being wrongly sacked. But Corry was someone who was put into an advanced position in midfield and been told to go forward a bit more when some people would see his qualities a bit deeper, but he can play in a deeper defensive midfield role. He can play central midfield as a box-to-box midfielder. He can also be put just behind a striker as well, with his physical traits of being a big guy, strong, good on the ball. He's someone who can bring a lot to a lot of teams. He shows a lot of different attributes, and for his size and pace and his experience in the Premier League, he'll be a great signing for a bottom half team. Next on the list is Callum Wilson, who played for Bournemouth. Obviously he was a striker there for a long time. He's Premier League proven, so he was a player who's too good to play in the Championship. He's someone who also was in the England squad as well for the last 2 England squad, or the last year he's been involved quite a lot. So he's someone who can definitely cut it at a bigger club. Big rumours of him going to Tottenham to be a backup striker for Kane, or he could definitely make it or pretty much any club outside the top 6. He'd be perfect to start at really, but for other clubs he could be a great backup and a great squad depth player. So he's someone who at 28 is hitting his prime years now. 9 goals and an assist this year, and he scored plenty of goals in his time in the Premier League, so he'd be a great signing for potentially anybody. Sticking with Bournemouth, we're jumping in with David Brooks, the 23-year-old winger. Great player last year, really good season, a real breakout season last year when he was dazzling defences against Chelsea. When Bournemouth beat Chelsea 4-0, he was man of the match by a mile, and has a great left foot. He can come off that right wing or play down the middle, and we can see that he has that ability. Obviously this year he had a huge injury, which meant he only had 9 games this season, but he's incredibly talented, and he might even be the best signing to make on this whole list, because he's got so much potential, and we could see that last year in Bournemouth, and he can definitely cut it at a much better team. Last but not least, we're going back to Norwich, and we're going with Jamal Lewis, who is the left back there. Again, 22 years old, bags of potential, very similar to Max Aarons, but Jamal Lewis obviously plays left back. He's someone who can get up and down. He was only dribbled past 0.5 times per 90, which is a great stat for a defender, and considering Norwich was so bad, defensively, it shows that he personally stood out as perhaps their best defender. He scored a great goal against Leicester as well before lockdown, and he has been again someone who you look at as a potential backup for a top team. We have rumours with Liverpool to be backup for Andy Robertson, and I think he just needs a coach who can work with him, try to really get that modern fullback role, down to a T. Obviously as Robertson and Trent have, it'd be a great place for him to learn how to really balance both aspects of that game. So that was part one of my relegated players who are too good for the Championship. Stay tuned for part two coming this week. Let me know down in the comments below, who do you think is the best player to sound on this list? Do you rate these players as good enough to play for your club, and where would you see these players at potentially in the league? And let me know what club you think the likes of Callum Wilson can be at, or a Jamal Lewis perhaps. As always, thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.